Welcome back. Tony Caravan with you here. You know, there's an old Chinese quote. It's actually a curse. And the expression goes, "May you live in interesting times." And surely these are interesting times. It seems so many people have just gone off the deep end, are suffering from media-induced insanity, which goes way beyond hoarding toilet paper. But before I get into that, here are some lettuce, radishes, and beets growing at March 23rd in the northern climate. I'm in Pennsylvania, and you can see that despite the fact that we've had frost, I put that glass over them. You can see they pop through the soil and they're looking pretty good. The stinging nettle now that's starting to come into center frame has also come back to life. Stinging nettle has some amazing properties. You can make a tea from it, but you really can't touch it because it has these stingers on it that will actually, not only do they hurt, but they'll actually inflame your skin. But you can still clip it off with the scissors and gloves, or clip it into a bowl and steep this like you would a tea. And it's, they say, that it's one of the healthiest things you can do. There's some kale that survived the winter, along with some onions that I think this whole little box towards the left, I'm going to just put kale in there mainly. I'll transplant those onions probably. And back here, I will probably, once I take out some of the weeds and overgrowth of grass, I don't know if you can see towards the upper center, there's a hole, and it's a chipmunk hole. It's coming from the other side of that fence. I'm going to have to reroute that little fellow. I don't mind chipmunks coming into the yard. It's the same with the birds. I'll put out some nuts, peanuts, and bird seed and direct them to an area. And that I've been successful the past couple of years keeping them away from the vegetables. In that area there, once I get that figured out, I think there'll probably be some sort of, hopefully, butternut squash. I think I have some seeds for butternut squash, which is a little bit more healthier plant, not necessarily healthier for you than just zucchini and yellow squash as far as fighting off pests. Though I'll do a zucchini plant, and if I have a yellow squash, I'll probably plant that as well. This is very early on. I'm still organizing, trying to figure out where I'm going to put what. So again, in the lower portion, that what looks like a tropical plant, that's actually leftover kale plant, and I was hoping it might survive, but I think I'm just going to have to yank that. But I have some other kale starts inside the house, so I think like I said, I'm going to put kale there. And across the way I have kale as well. But as we get towards the pond here, to get back to this surrealistic nightmare that we seem to be living right now, where people are completely bananas over this virus, which, according to even my doctor, is highly contagious, but that if you do practice good hygiene, distance yourself from people, boost your immune system, that your chances of, assuming you don't have any underlying health issues, your chances of getting seriously ill with this are very, very minimal. In the area where I am, there's only been one case reported, not even directly where I am, but near where I am. And yet, I'm sure many people have died of the flu this year in this area, right in this area. So that's still something that I still have trouble like getting my mind around, where we have 50,000 people a year die of the flu, but we've got maybe by the time you see this video 500 people dying, and it's, we're talking about 1/1000th% or something, that there just seems to be people are just a little bit overreacting, I guess, in the sense of closing down the entire country for something that is hopefully now at least is more manageable. So, I mean, if that didn't make any sense, I guess this is kale left over from last year, which I'm sure you get 2 years out of kale. So I'll trim off some of the stuff that lasted through the winter, and I believe I'll have a good kale crop right in this spot. I don't know what else I'll put nearby it. Maybe some chard or something else along those lines. All of my raised beds are going to get more soil this year. They'll be a little bit higher. And out here on my lawn, this is my small backyard. I don't have many followers. I have very few followers. So, but just to be repetitive, this is my apple tree right there, which I planted from an apple I actually ate 3 years ago. I started it in the house under a grow light, put it in the ground, and this is the third year, and it looks like it's starting to turn into something. I think next year I'll have apples. I'm sure there'll be something that'll pop up on it this year, because the growth is tremendous year. If you could see a little bit to the left of the screen, there's a little one that I just planted last year. So you can see the difference of how this one is really taking off and doing well. I'm hoping 2 of those will eventually be, in the coming years, companion plants for cross-pollination or whatever. That dirty mess along the side of this fence will actually be flowers, and it usually is. It'll be very nice. This is the area that the birds have pretty much destroyed. This pole is where I have a bird feeder on, which I'm going to get rid of from this spot, and I'll probably just turn this into some kind of hanging flowers and a flower bed. And then to the left, I'm going to put another pole. Well, actually, it's going to be a wooden post, and I'm going to move the bird house over to the left, closer to the house, easier for me to feed them in the wintertime when it's snowy or whatever, but also further away from my garden now that the apple tree is growing and the garden is expanding. This time of year, everything looks dirty, dingy, and messy, but this garden, this yard is really, it really comes alive once the flowers and the growths comes in. But what I meant to say is that we need to, be sensible about protecting ourselves and protecting people who are vulnerable, and do the right thing. But the right thing isn't hoarding toilet paper, hoarding hand wipes, hoarding disinfecting wipes, hoarding liquid soap, to the point of where you have, a garage full of it. And people like me who have like 2 rolls of toilet paper left. I went to the store this morning at like 6 a.m. I got up because the store is supposedly opening early, and they were going to have the shelves restocked. I got down there were people down there, and they never had restocked the shelves. They were trying to pawn off some off-brand. There was a few rolls of some off-brand toilet paper, the type of stuff that just dissolves in your hands. and they were overpriced. And but as far as everything else, you couldn't even buy rubbing alcohol, which is a good alternative to if you can't get the brand disinfectant cleaners or hand washes. Now you can make your own hand sanitizer with 2/3 rubbing alcohol, as long as it's over 60% alcohol, and 1/3 aloe, and you'll have a great hand sanitizer that won't dry out your hands and will kill any kind of viruses and bacteria in your hands. So I don't know. We're really at a point of a precipice, I would say. A precipice where, we're leaning into dystopia and depression, but we don't have to be, because it's possible to walk and chew gum at the same time. And that means that we can practice hygiene, we can practice staying away and containing a virus, while at the same time allowing, our economy to function normally. What I'm focusing on right now, this is what they call square gardening. This was actually, and I've mentioned this before, but this is the first raised bed I ever built. And the idea here is to put in each one of those squares, you plant a different thing. This year, I'm not sure what I'm going to put in there. I might just do 6 different herbs. I've always had a lot of success with this particular raised bed. And again, I'll probably add a couple more inches of soil to this one as well. It just, don't know where it goes to. But in other words, we're facing a situation right now that, at least as of the date on this, and this is March 24th, 2020, that if Congress doesn't get its act together and pass legislation to, do what they have to do, get the economy rolling again, this covered box that's oregano from last year, and that's doing fine too. I've just covered it slightly to keep it from getting frost, though it survived through the whole winter. But if we don't do that, we're looking at, in a couple of weeks, 20 or 30% unemployment, and conditions in the economy worse than the Great Depression, which took like 10 years or more, and eventually a World War II to get us out of. And I think people who don't study history, don't know anything about economics, who are just self-centered, looking for themselves, getting out for themselves, they have no idea of the consequences of this. And, that's really a bad thing. In this giant bed, which definitely needs to get some dirt, I'll be keeping those wooden, that's a piece of a pallet that I cut. That wooden thing will remain there. The cardboard obviously will be removed. That's just there to keep weeds from growing until I'm ready to plant. And I'll be adding more than those topsoil bags. They're mainly there just to hold down the cardboard from the wind. I'll be adding much more soil in here. And I'm counting on this area to be a big producer this year. Probably have things like carrots, potatoes, things along those lines there as well. But we can get through this thing and flourish in a matter of, by the summertime, the U.S. could be back to, having a high stock market, people's 401ks way up again, good unemployment numbers, or good employment numbers, I should say, and people out there buying, spending, and having a good time. Or people could keep hoarding, hiding, freaking out, listening to the mainstream media, getting psyched out and panic-stricken over this boogeyman, which again is serious and contagious, but is something that we're getting under control and putting systems in place that we're expanding our medical system to be able to handle this. In fact, my belief is that if people stop the hoarding, stop the panicking, and the media and the politicians stop playing games. Sorry for that jump cut. We're right inside of the my little mini greenhouse I built outside, and these are those tomato plants from that I started inside several weeks ago. I was surprised it got down to 24 degrees, and they survived. I put a little, you can see I have a little grow mat there, but it hardly gives any heat at all, but apparently it's enough to keep the roots going. This is where I'll be putting a lot of my starts first. You can see a kale start there. There's a pea plant that for some reason not doing too well out here, and I don't know why, because it grew well inside, and peas are usually a cooler weather plant. There's some shard there, which is just like in suspended animation. So, this is the thing. It just gets me. I mean, are people that dumbed down? Are we that, as a society, freaked out, controllable, manipulated by the media, that we don't have common sense enough to to take care of ourselves and the people who are vulnerable, and that we think somehow by having a lot of toilet paper or Clorox wipes, that's just going to do it for us, when keeping yourself healthy is something that should be common sense, or should have been taught to you by your parents. But with the way this whole system is coming together, is what I was getting at, is that by creating this new infrastructure, which hasn't existed in the United States, and new ways of coordinating all of these medical services, it's not so much this coronavirus that I worry about, because I see us defeating that, particularly with these new drugs. I see it more as trying to defeat the real killer, which is the flu, that's killing anywhere from 20 to 50,000 people a year in the United States. Now the rest of the world, that's a whole different story. But I think that's what I'm saying. We're at this crossroads, but it's a crossroads that people don't seem to see. The crossroads, they don't even understand it. It's a precipice, and that you take the wrong road, and you're just what's left is, it's the road to oblivion, dystopia, or it's like glory days ahead. This is the angle from my chair. Everything's kind of all damp and weird from the winter. This is where I sit and soak up the sun in the summertime, listen to music in between my gardening and weeding efforts. And we'll end this thing with a little glimpse inside my garage. I've got all my supplies now. I'm ready to roll. I don't know if the lighting is too good on this, but I did this with InDesign. I'm going to map out everything we saw today is on that piece of paper, and I'll be mapping out what I'm going to plant where, which is a good way to organize your garden. It also gives you a view of some things that you haven't seen, like my rainwater compost pile and things of that sort. That's pretty much my yard layout. So yeah, I've got concrete, I've got wood, I've got dirt. It's all in this workshop room and ready to roll. So as soon as the weather breaks, I was going to do some work today, but it was like 40 degrees and it was just chilling you through the bones. And I decided, nah, forget it. I'm going to go inside, just make a video. So I have a little bar in here too. It's kind of like a tiki bar. That's why you see that those odd drapery type of things. So it's a combination workshop, man cave, tiki bar, and place where I store, lumber and all everything I need. It's kind of cool. That's, I'm pretty happy. I'm able to produce pretty much, 2/3 of my food for the year, and now that I've had successful winter this year, probably be able to. You can see here I've got my concrete and some more mulch and dirt and a pile of lumber close up. So anyway, thanks for watching. Visit Rock Flux, listen to some of my beat poetry tracks, and I'll talk to you real soon when the weather changes.